What's up with the tune part of the name?
I don't know. I think it might be their version of Evo.
Yeah. So it's like
I don't know.
the pimped out version
that
everyone in Switzerland rides or something?
Maybe. I don't know.
Never mind the semantics. The bike was sick. So sick. My favorite bike so far.
Elaborate.
I have 4 bikes to ride to test, and so far it's hands down my favorite. It did everything I want in a trail bike or an all-mountain bike or a trail / all-mountain bike. I mean, it climbed well, descended well, it was very maneuverable. It was relatively light, I think just over 27 pounds without pedals. It looks sick, and the part spec it's exactly what I would want, what I would hand pick. Of course, it does cost $7,600, so it better be pretty damn sweet.
Yeah, no, it should be really good, right? But it in terms of the component spec and the frame, the combination, it's a lot of money. But I wrote on my notes like maybe the best spec out of the entire Bible.
I thought the spec was awesome. Like, this is, I mean, so if you look at all of our Editor's Choice bikes, our dream builds,
it's very similar.
Most of us, 4 out of 6 of us had
X61.
We had SRAM drivetrains, SRAM 11-speed drivetrains with Shimano brakes. That's what this bike is. And I saw that and I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. Yeah. But the only thing that threw a bone in that for me was the reverb seat post. Because you can't run a reverb seat post with Shimano brakes. You can't do it. Stock another seat post, because there are at least 4 other, maybe not 4 other. There are other seat posts that are equally as good as the reverb, which have levers that play nice with the Shimano brakes. And that pisses me off, because I can't reach the fucking lever.
Really? You have to stretch that far?
Yeah, and it's on the wrong side. It's on the right side.
It is on the right side. But you know, could they do it any different? Because they've got the twin lock on the left, right?
No, but that's the thing about that bike.
Is an issue,
I like the way that the bike rides. I like the geometry. The bike, it felt good to me, but I got confused. Like, there's too much stuff going on the handlebars. It's something that I don't like. I understand the appeal of it. However, for me, it's just not. It's not what I want. I don't want all those switches.
Well, let's back up for a second, because the bike is different than everything else, right? When we're talking about all the switches, it has a twin lock, so you can run the bike in 170, wide open, like long travel, super enduro, all mountain, whatever the hell you want to call it, mode, right? Then you click at 1 and it goes to 130 in the back, and it firms up the fork simultaneously. And then there's that final click that must be popular in Switzerland that I don't know anyone uses in the United States, which is fully locked out, right?
The fire road click.
The fire road click. I guess. I thought the bike in the middle click and the 130 travel in the back, it climbed really well. And it's a huge difference between that middle click and the wide open, which I think is pretty cool. But it is confusing at times. There's just a lot going on the bars. Maybe it's something you just adjust to.
I just ran it wide open the whole time. I didn't think about it at all until I got to the little paved climb back to the house.
Yeah.
I noticed that, like, wide open, for me, it was bobbing too much. But on the first click, which is like the trail mode or something.
The 130, yeah.
The 130 mode. I just felt like the low speed compression was a little bit too harsh for getting a lot of traction on the steppy stuff that we were climbing up. So, like, I felt like I lost a lot of traction when in that mode. However, I felt like it was bobbing a little bit too much when fully open. So I just couldn't reach the compromise. Like, I couldn't reach the balance that I really wanted.
So the bike is trying to do a bunch for you, but it's not exactly what you want in the first place.
It just wasn't hitting the perfect little spot that I needed.
Well, if I can add on to that, when you get that middle click, it also firms up the fork, and there are times I really don't want the fork to be firm. Because I wanted it in shorter travel and bobbing less to the back doesn't mean I want the fork nearly locked out on the climbs.
That's a good point.
And I found that frustrating.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I don't ever want to change what the fork is doing. I never adjust my forks. It's always open, unless I'm going up a long fire road.
Right.
And so, I think that the bike would be a lot better off if if you just disconnected the fork from that whole equation.
I agree. I mean, I think for what the bike tries to do, it comes out, it gets like 8 out of 10, right? I mean, going from 170, which is like, that's a hell of a lot of travel. We're talking more than the 6 inches of travel. And then going into like a sprightly kind of trail bike, to have that all in one bike at the flick of a switch is impressive. But I thought that the one thing I didn't like, I mean, I know you really dug it in the tight conditions, but that wheelbase, it's over 47 inches. It's a long bike, and it's as long as...
It's longer than the felt.
It's longer than the felt. It's as long as some of the long travel 29ers that we had, and I felt that definitely hung me up. I mean, I didn't know what the geometry was before I went out. I just knew that I was kind of suffering in some of the tight stuff. And then when we got into the bigger, wide open sections of trail towards the end, when it was high speed, I was in love with the bike. So again, that's also, I guess, part of it is the course that we're on. But I don't know. I thought it tried to do maybe a little too much, but it's an improvement over what they've had in the past. I mean, it's an entirely new design this year, and I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah. They better have, because they've given up on 26-inch bikes.
I found that's a funny thing you say that, because first of all, I found that the bike descended really well. Once you get it going downhill, I thought it was phenomenal. Like on open, you know, with the suspension fully open on 170, it's hard to beat. But like while I was climbing and meandering through stuff, I was really wondering, what if it had 26-inch wheels on it? Because I actually felt like I was really high up off the ground. I felt like I was like way up in the sky on this thing, and with the big balloony, it had like 2.4
Hans
Dams on it.
Front and rear.
I mean, those wheels, like the end diameter of those was at least what you'd get on a normal 29er.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was on a 29er. Actually, I actually had to double check because I knew that it was a 27.5, but I got off the bike and was like making sure that it was actually a 27.5 because I felt like the bike was so huge.
Right, and you had the wheelbase of the super long travel 29ers, like the intense carbine 29 that we had here. You know, the one thing that I was a little bummed about, I'd have to say in the descending, was that it's got a Fox 34, which is a great fork, but I think at 170, and it's a custom Fox 34, right? They're making it. 170 is a little long for that format. I would love to see a 36, and I have a feeling that they probably couldn't even get a 36 this year, because like the Fox 36, I don't think they're making it in 650B, right? I mean, it's kind of like no one wants a 36 anymore, which I think is a bit of a shame. It's a great fork. And I think, you know, if I wanted to have a bike with 170 millimeters of travel, that's exactly the fork I'd want. So I was a little bummed. I think they're asking a bit too much from a 34 in the front, personally.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. All in all, I think it was a pretty well-rounded bike, but it's too much of a Swiss Army knife. It's trying to do a little bit too much, you know? That's my opinion.
If I was a successful dentist, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. Absolutely.